Welcome back for the final session of the day. And what a session it is. It is a session that brings together everything you've heard today about skilling, skills gap, and how you can benefit from the cloud. Ron Augustus is here today with me. I'm very proud that he volunteered, or he wanted to present some great examples of customers, how they benefited from skilling their people and bringing their business to the cloud. And it's something that you can learn from. So if you haven't had enough inspiration yet, I think this story will complete it all, and you'll be more than eager to start the skilling journey in your organization and get the right skills with the right people. So Ron, great to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, my name is Ron Augustus. I am the Customer Success Lead for Microsoft the Netherlands, and I'll be consolidating some of the stories you heard through the day, picking some bits from here, picking some bits from there, but also add some experiences on learning from my own. Now, if we start the journey today in this last final chapter of the training program, let's start with this specific bird, the dodo. Now, the first word that probably comes to mind when thinking about a dodo is the word extinct. Because even though it survived for thousands of years on the beautiful island of Mauritius, only within 50 years after sailors traveled from Europe to the Far East, they ate the dodo, and after 50 years the total species was extinct. So a good example, perhaps a symbol, of an organization, an organism that could not adjust to its environment. Moving to Charles Darwin, who a couple of hundred years later invented a total new theory in which he said that those species, those animals, those organisms that are able to adjust to their environment and are able to evolve and making sure that they keep learning are the ones that will survive. It is not the fittest that survive. He never said that. It's not the strongest, and it's certainly not the ones that shout the loudest. It's the ones that are able to adjust. Moving from Charles Darwin to Satya Nadella, who said, actually on the first day that he started, that our industry, the IT industry, is the industry that moves so fast and it has no respect for tradition at all. It only respects innovation. So combining these three, the dodo may be a symbol of what got you here will not get you there. Darwin may be a symbol of being able to adjust, make sure that you will survive as an individual, organization, or a whole industry. And Satya, as a symbol, may say that our industry is probably moving the fastest. So if there's one area where you need to adjust, it's certainly the IT industry. On the first day Satya started, in 2014, he inherited a company that had a lot of financial success, but not necessarily the right gusto to view to the future to get, let's say, everything on the right momentum and the right skills. He had a job to do in transferring the whole company. That's something that Evelien talked about earlier today, how to get that cultural change across. In his book that he wrote in his first year, Hit Refresh, this quote came up, and he said, anything is possible for a company when its culture is about listening, learning, and harnessing individual passions and talents. So this one struck me, because putting learning in the core of Microsoft's strategy may be one of the biggest changes from the previous Microsoft was out there. So learning and listening. Listening for an IT company coming from the US that's known for not listening but telling. But we all need to change from tellers to listeners, from know-it-alls to learn-it-alls. So this was put at the core of Microsoft's strategy. Michel and Jeffrey talked about the structure and the strategy that we have on cloud, putting the intelligent cloud at the center, where in the past 10 years, a lot of companies, Microsoft included, worked on getting into a cloud that could work with all kinds of cloud, being public, be it private, and they all work together. In the next 10 years, probably the intelligent edge will be becoming more important. Self-driving cars, having drones, talking to your refrigerator, all this part will be becoming more and more important. And Microsoft is focusing not only on multi-devices, you could get to that cloud from any device you want. It should be safe from whatever device you're using, but also with different senses. You can talk to the cloud, you can use your keyboard. So all different parts how you can reach this new cloud. Artificial intelligence is becoming more important. The computers keep learning and being better able to adjust to the interaction with the users. There's also a danger to that. So there has to be a boundary in artificial intelligence that the data that's been used is used in the right way, in the right ethical way. Because the third thing that's important for Microsoft is that it has to be respectful to privacy. Because all this data are being collected. If there's no direct strategy on how to use that data and be careful on how you use that data and not to abuse the trust that you're getting from your users, you're way off your strategy. So privacy is key in this. And finally, also the sustainability part is becoming more and more important in driving this cloud. In 2030, we don't only want to be neutral, we want to be negative on CO2. And in 2050, Microsoft has the vision that it has totally reduced every CO2 from the past as well. So we don't have to be neutral, we want to be negative, and we want to have to erase our total CO2 footprint in 2050. And this is important in driving cloud next to privacy. So Satya had this challenge of transforming the company. Yes, we had our software divisions and great software to sell, but next to software, the acquisition of Skype, moving into Teams, the acquisition of GitHub, the acquisition of LinkedIn also meant that we were building a company that is connecting people not only from a physical point of view in software, but also from a social point of view in LinkedIn and in GitHub, getting open source more in from a, let's say, day-to-day business perspective. So we're all about connecting. On cloud, a lot of investment was going on cloud services, like the ones that Herman and Jan talked about in the previous presentation. A lot of investment still on Bing, because it's being very useful to get knowledge management and artificial intelligence and machine learning from all the Bing interactions going on worldwide. And of course, a big investment in all data centers worldwide, as Jan and Jeffrey and also Michel talked about this morning. The fourth pillar would be on hardware, where Satya retracted us a bit from the phone market, but definitely got us more into the device market with our services, looked into the holograph and the holographic scene with HoloLens, and we kept on fighting in the gaming industry, certainly with Xbox. So these are all core priorities for Microsoft. So this is four different pillars, sometimes perhaps a bit different than you're used to seeing, that we needed to change into. So having this change, and this relates to what Evelien was talking about earlier, from to the Microsoft side, this is important in getting to a learning organization. So how to move from a silo organization to one Microsoft. How to move from a relation that was based on transactions to a relation that was based on trust. Can you trust Microsoft? And how do you build that? Quarterly license sales motivations to customer obsession, deals to technology knowledge. Command and control within the organization to a different culture where individuals were promoted and had the right responsibility to act on their own. Sales skills that were prominent in the old Microsoft is shifting towards technical skills. Because if you don't have the technical skills, even from a board level, you miss out on the opportunities in the market. So there's a responsibility for everyone in Microsoft organization to understand technology. From a closed organization that was sometimes a bit, let's say, shut off from the rest of the world and perhaps being a little bit scared to share information, to an organization that will share all its information, be transparent, even if mistakes are made, be clear on the mistakes that you've made in that sense, so that the market understands where you're going. And finally, also technology, being from a technology supplier, as we were often seen, to a trusted partner. And even though we still have a path to grow on the trusted partner side, we're trying to learn every week and making steps in that direction. Because all what we do is making a cultural change from telling to learning, and a cultural shift towards usage, a cultural shift towards trust, and a cultural shift towards technical skills. So how did that end up? Evelyn also talked about mindset and the growth mindset by Carol Dweck. Two things came to mind for me, at least, when we had this, because this was like a mandatory book for the whole of Microsoft to read, and for managers and leaders in the corporation also to spread this thought to their own divisions. For me, it struck that in the book came about that IQ is not something that you're born with, it's something you can train. By training, you can expand your IQ in that. So it's something that gives hope for certainly for me and for others as well. The second thing that struck me on this book is that it was proven that if your mindset is that you cannot learn, so you say, I will never learn mathematics, you will indeed never learn. But if you say, I don't understand mathematics yet, and you put the word yet behind it, you open up your mind. And this was one of the things that you need. So the company needs to think, all the individuals need to think that they're able to make this transition themselves, that they can do it. Because without that attitude, it's hard to start at first at all. Or to speak in the words of the greatest Swedish philosopher Pippi Longstockings, I've never done it before, so I think I can do it, and that should be the mentality. So driving that thought, that culture of learning is one of the basics in the organization that we also try to tell our customers if we want to be the trusted partner. It's not only about culture, it's also about structure. One of the investments Microsoft made in 2017 was build an organization that was called Customer Success. And Customer Success built worldwide a team of thousands of professionals that helped our customers to adopt technology. And within the Netherlands, we have a team of 15 customer success managers and about 60 cloud solution architects that on a daily basis, on a non-billable way of working, so we don't get direct money for it, helping our customers to make that adoptions. In the idea that if we help customers to really use the software, and they're happy with using that software or that cloud technology, they will continue to do so going forward. And Amy Hood, our financial officer, quoted this in Forbes in 2018, that customer success has moved in the middle, in the center of Microsoft's strategy. Like learning, customer success. Looking at my organization that we have today, we have about 15 customer success managers that work on a SaaS platform, specifically Dynamics, specifically Teams, Office 365. How can you adopt the way of working with that technology so customers can really use and benefit from all the features of Teams and not only one or two. So you have to learn how to use that. Not only from a technical level, but also from a board of directors level. So we have workshops with boards to make sure how you communicate with your total company. And these are things that customer success managers are doing. Looking at cloud solution architects, we have about 60 of those in the Dutch organization. They work on IaaS and PaaS platforms together with the customers to make sure that they get all the benefits that Jan and Herman talked about before, and make sure that you can use that, have the right platform, build up from there. Looking on cloud adoption and key success factors in there, for me there's three. The first would be that there is, from an organizational perspective, clarity in your strategy on cloud. Did you have the discussion? Do you feel safe enough? Do you have the right choices? Do you want to have multiple cloud, a single cloud? Do you want to stay on-prem? Have a direction that everybody agrees to. Because if that's not the case, and if you're in a process further on where there's still discussion about cost benefit, if there's still discussion on which cloud to go for, it actually delays the deployment of cloud later on. So having the right strategy is key. And Microsoft Services, Microsoft CSU can certainly help you, and a lot of our partners, to build that strategy with you. It doesn't have to be Microsoft only. That's the good thing about an intelligent cloud. It has to be open and flexible. And also the mindset of the Microsoft employees would be to do exactly that and help you with building that strategy. The second part of cloud success for me would be building readiness. Because if we have architects helping organizations, but the organization individuals are not equipped on knowing about clouds, it's hard to make progress together. So readiness and skills programs are one of the key fundamental areas how we can make progression in the cloud from an organization point of view, not only from a technical level. It's yes, there's technical training programs, but there's also training programs that are dealing more on change management, looking on our customer success managers, for example, how to drive a new process in the organization, where are pockets of resistance, how can we get people along, so we can really use that strategy and use that technology. And the third part of this learning strategy has to do with board level and management. Because if the board doesn't get technology and doesn't get cloud and all its applications, all the benefits, but also some of the restrictions you have in working with clouds, they're probably, let's say, not smelling all the opportunities that are out there in the market. So board, business and technical folks included in this readiness program. And the third part has to do with partnership. Because you cannot do this on your own. You have to work with technology providers like Microsoft, learning partners like Computrain, perhaps there is outsourcers involved. And if all these partners that you're working with are not telling the same story, are not using the same language, do not have the same aim and the same direction, it's hard to make progress. So these three things, these three pillars, for me are key to driving it. And those are the ones that we are constantly checking before we engage with our customers and help them to drive this. Example one would be how we as Microsoft have done it. I've been looking at my own organization for that, the customer success unit. And the discussion we had is what typically motivates knowledge workers, deep technical experts or customer success managers. And Lurleen talked about this a little bit earlier today as well. And what came out is that compensation and money not necessarily is the biggest motivator. It is an environmental factor that if they don't feel it's fair, it will certainly be a negative factor, but it's not necessarily the progressive factor. What is important in motivation in knowledge workers is recognition. Recognition certainly outside in. Are you able to share your knowledge outside? Do you blog? Do you vlog? Do you write articles? Do you cooperate with people in the ecosystem in it? And are you also seen for bringing that contribution? That's something that really resonates and motivates our technology workers. The second thing would be, looking at outside in, is having responsibility and being given that responsibility in different areas of technology or processes and drive on that and build new ideas and give people the trust to set up new things in the organization. So we're totally focused on these two things. Can we get the recognition in? Can we get our knowledge workers to share their thoughts and make sure that they're trained in the best way? Because training it the best way is probably one of the key reasons to attract and retain our personnel. On our architect side, we're in the following, let's say, steps. First, we have new people joining on board who are still junior on the technology knowledge, so we train them deep on technology. From a junior level, so getting the fundamentals in, to the associate level, to the expert level, making sure that from a T profile we're going deep. Because that gives you the confidence on the technology side and also some experience on the customer side to make sure that you're learning. Now, if you've done that, the second phase would kick in, certainly for the more experienced architects, is bringing that T profile in. Not only knowing that for one typical technology, but knowing that for several technologies. So you can actually make sure that you can advise customers across different technologies. So the T profile, make it to understand different solutions, comes in at a second step. The third step would be, so if you're trained technical very deep and also broader, so you can have a great technical insight, are you able to really relate this to the customer situation? And are your communication skills and industry knowledge skills on the right level to actually get it across? So the third part would be not only technical training, but also all kinds of training that has to do with communications and behaviors to make sure that you guide your customers along in the journey. So a lot of focus not only on technical, but certainly on social training. And the fourth level was one that we were really struggling with, and we only just started it. So if you're already mastered that, so you're already a senior architect in that sense, how do you get to be a technical leader in the field, to be having the discussions with the CTOs of large organizations. That means we also have to skill our architects in C-level conversations. What does a board think about technology? What are the risks involved? So what are the new technologies in an industry? So these are the four areas that we guide our architects through in doing their training. By the way, it was not only for our architects, also for our CSMs, we're doing the right training that is. All management needs to be certified on Azure, needs to be certified on Microsoft Teams. So like I said before, it's a training throughout the organization, not only on our technical employees. A second example I like to use is the example of Shell Oil. Yes, it's a big organization. I'll come to a government organization after this as well. Because the challenge at Shell, and they actually communicated on this through LinkedIn today, how glad they were on the progress that we were making together, is that they needed to train, let's say, more than 1,000 people on Azure in only a period of half a year. And we started by doing that with exactly the method that Stephanie also talked about in her presentation earlier. For example, the job task analysis, so what kind of roles will I have in the future? What kind of tasks will we need to train our people on, and making, let's say, a mapping between courses to do and people that you have in your organization. So you have a training path and an assessment path with certifications. So we use this blueprint way of working within Shell to set a total program up, mapping individuals into courses. There were 3 steps in that plan, like Stephanie talked about as well before. So fundamentals for everybody, and role-based and specialty trainings for individuals. So the whole skilling program had both generic parts, fundamentals, and it had individual specific parts for role-based and specialty training that maybe for a few people only, but they were very relevant for that specific audience. And we were using all kinds of training techniques possible, not only, let's say, the digital skilling, so that people can do that in their own pace, in their own time, but also with events, getting people together, because learning together at some moments is also important to get the right spirit up, and making also sure that you connect people together, that they start sharing their knowledge, because that's something that they found is really, really working. We had instructor-led trainings on certain paths, sometimes helping people to get through exams, but also sometimes to discuss specific technical areas. And of course, there's certifications going in. So it looked like a path for different certifications, by the way, not only on Azure, but certainly also on Dynamics and Modern Workplace. So there's all different paths from fundamentals to associates to expert levels. Now, currently, we trained about 1,600 people over there. More than 100 are certified already. More are coming in. During the training program, we had to be flexible as well. COVID-19 kicked in, meaning that a lot of instructor-led training that were on site and some of the meetings that were scheduled all had to be moved online. So that that required a lot of flexibility on the part of the trainers, but also on the part of the participants. So a lot of flexibility was needed, certainly in the last couple of months, but a lot of people did get trained. We did more than 30 types of training with more than 1,600 registrations. Some learnings. One was that if you're doing a big training program without real ownership from the organizational point of view, it will not work. It has to be clear to everybody why people are doing this training, why they're taking back from the regular jobs, which are sometimes very important and short-term, they cannot go back from it in the short term, that they do have to do this in order to make sure that the organization can adjust to its environment, like I said earlier. So make sure customer ownership is in there. And have the full organization as a scope, from board level to the latest junior that you got on board coming from school. It's not only HR. If it's an HR party, it's hard to get it across to the business. It has HR, business, and IT together. So that is the success formula in that area. And it really helps if the customer is also clear about putting training in the core of their strategy. Because this is what is attracting a lot of talent in the market today. The second is on communication. Because yes, people like a training strategy, but it's very complex. There are so many different exams to do, so many different training methods to have. It's a big matrix if you just present that to everybody. So it's good to have snackable items in that total training programs that people know what to look at and what to take as the next step in that progress. So make it simple and start with the core. And also be aware that landing a training story is not something that you do once. It's something that you do every time, because it takes a long time to really get this through in the total core of everybody in the organization. So be patient, people will get to it, and stick, let's say, to your snackable items. The third learning was certainly on centralizing the demand. So having one control group over different departments. Because if you do it on a departmental level, you're, let's say, so busy in all these steering groups, there's so many stakeholders, it's good to do this from the top level and work from there down. It's also more scalable. If you have some, let's say, places that open up on a certain registration, you can get people from a different department to fill in those seats. So you have better coordination on registrations as well. And it's easier to get back to C-level on progress. So we can have joint progress reports going out so that everybody in the organization is seeing what is actually being achieved. So these are things that came as learnings from that second example. A third example could be from a government organization, where it's not necessarily all commercial reasons to do a big training program. But one of the key reasons for this organization was that they wanted to retain their talent by giving a training program, but also able to attract more talent from the market. And as they know that driving and training and getting people's skills up is one of the key areas, that was their reason to move on. So they defined a 5-year plan. So they looked at the current roles of what needed to be trained, but they also looked at what roles did not exist yet, and they expected to exist in 5 years from now. So working not only from now to then, but also from then to now, and then define a training program. They developed the curriculum, so we did it together with Computrain, where we had cloud fundamentals in, learning path, like we did with Shell as well, but also the connecting parts. So getting peers together, making sure you get ecosystems of like-minded people in the organization that can share thoughts and ideas. And the trainings were delivered. We started with 42 people directly. We wanted to go up to 600 in the next 2 years. So it's a big, let's say, progress that's there. Not only technical, also on Scrum, also on Agile, also on soft skills, like we had within Microsoft too, because that's part of the total equation. You cannot only train on technical skills, it has to land, you have to be able to deliver those technical skills to the end customer and the organizations. Finally, with this customer, the certifications were not mandatory. So if you want to do a certification, you can do, but it's not a mandatory thing. So for government organizations, this can certainly fit in there as well. Then looking at the summary. So what for me would be the 4 key takeaway things on my experience? Well, the first one would be define training as a strategic topic. Not only to maintain and attract talent, because I think it's one of the key things, but also to recognize as an organization that if you don't do this, you're likely to end up being stuck in your old way of doing things. And you have to open up and adjust. Don't end up like a dodo. The second thing would be identify the future skills and the current gaps, technical and also behavioral skills, and make one big plan. The third one would be don't only look at the technical audience, but look at all audiences within your organization. Certainly don't forget C-level. Don't forget the board. If they're not smelling technical opportunities, they miss out on opportunities in the marketplace. So from junior to expert, all across the board, make sure you include them in your learning plan. And the fourth and final, looking back on the learnings we had earlier, having a clear strategy combined with having a readiness program, combined with having partners you can trust that can help you and be proactive and making sure that you avoid some pitfalls that you would otherwise directly fall into, those are the 3 things that combine and will get you to cloud speed. With these 2 things, I want to hand it back to Patrick, and perhaps there are some questions.
Well, I didn't see any questions in the chat box, so that means that it was very clear to the viewers. And I think it was very clear because we've seen 7 or 8 presentations today. So people might have their heads spinning around of all the things. And I think you did a great job in addressing all the topics that were mentioned today in the presentations of all the people of this great lineup. And I think it's good to finish the day now with the examples that you give, because it's good to see what you need to do, or to get inspired by all these great presentations. But if you see what it could end into, and if you can see what the best practices are with the customers, that the examples, and one of the greatest example, of course, if you can tell from your own kitchen and tell what you did and what the results was, I think that's the best example ever. But also the examples of the government and Shell were great, of course, and we're more than happy then also play a role in those examples. So thank you very much, Ron. You did a great job in connecting all the presentations. So actually that makes my life easier, because I don't have to connect all the presentations, but I can close the day with some extra information for you. So can I get the clicker, please? Yep. Thank you. Because you've been watching us here throughout the day. You've seen 8 or 9 presentations with, I hope, very valuable content. And of course, we would rather see you in a great hall, a big hall together, where we can have more interaction. But I think this studio here in Microsoft Amsterdam is very suitable to have this event. But anyway, still, I hope that next year the dust has settled, that there is maybe even a cure or a vaccine for COVID, and we can get together again and we can have interactive conversations about this very important topic: how to bring your business to a level where your people are skilled for the cloud and taking the next step and be ready for the future technologies. So let's hope we are able to do that again next year. At least from our side, from Computrain and LLPA, we are aiming for that, and we're aiming for a series of events again from all over the globe. And bringing business leaders together and talk about this important topic. For now, I would like to ask you to fill out the evaluation. I think there's an evaluation where you can evaluate every session. You can just scan the QR code to do so. And well, that's it for now. And I want to thank you very much for being here. And maybe some of you, or all of you of course, have watched the full series today. Started at 10 a.m. I've seen the presentations of Jeffrey and Michelle, the presentation of Lurleen, the presentation of Michael, the presentation of Stephanie, the presentation of Evelien, the presentation of Ron, Jan and Herman, Michael, the certification presentation that I did. And I hope it inspired you, and it all inspired you in now starting this journey, start this skilling journey. And because I think it's now clear, it's not only skilling, it's not only registering a student for a training. There's way more than that. And I think Ron perfectly laid that out in his presentation. So thank you very much for watching. The recordings will be made available. I think the slides will be made available too. So it's worth to have a look at the presentations and re-experience it. So thank you for watching. Thanks, Ron, for your valuable contribution. And I wish you all a very nice day and evening. Thank you.